Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining this energy webinar series from OpenText. As you can see on the screen, this is the first of 4 scheduled webinars that we are going to run. Each one about 30 minutes. We don't want to make these too long. And we're going to walk through a number of different topics. Today, we'll look at asset navigation. We'll talk about technical service management, operational risk management. And at the end, we'll come back around to the OpenText Content Cloud for Energy and look at things like remote working. Just jump to the next slide, Chris. So for today's presentation, my name is Martin Richards. I'm responsible for the strategy for the energy industry here at OpenText. I'm joined by Chris Clark, who is a director at Cad-Capture. We'll talk about Cad-Capture in a minute, and also by Jerry Roy, who is in our business value consulting team. So before we get into the discussion about the particular solution we're going to talk about today, I wanted to just do an overview of the strategy that we're following over the next 12 months, but we have been for the last 12 months around the energy industry. As most of you know, OpenText is the world's leading vendor of content management systems, particularly Documentum and Content Suite, which we all know. And we have a very strong position in the energy industry, especially around management of business critical content relating to assets. And with Extended ECM and the platform we have, we're able to integrate that content from an OpenText repository, to the world's leading EAM systems. And typically we do this with products like SAP and Maximo and Infor. What we're seeing today, and a lot of our major customers, is that they're moving towards what they're calling an intelligent asset management strategy. And what I've done in this slide is actually, I've got to be honest, I took this slide from a deck that was presented by one of our major global system integrator partners. And it's really trying to describe what is intelligent asset management. And I've just highlighted 3 areas here. First of all, it's comprehensive work processes. So it's the ability to run and manage a process from end to end. It's interoperability between processes and between sets of information. But importantly, if we look lower down, it also includes a key element of intelligent asset management, actually the management of content. Content's still a major part of the information set that's being used by organizations and needs to be fully brought into and integrated into an effective intelligent asset management strategy. And that's really what part of what we're going to cover today. So if we just jump onto the next slide, it's the last one I want to cover before we start talking to Chris, and just sort of show you how we're putting the strategy together for the energy industry. So first of all, if we just click the next one, our sort of content platforms, the good strong platforms I've talked about in Documentum and Content Suite, available both in the cloud and off cloud on premise, combined with, if you click again, Chris, combined with a set of sort of business services that we provide through OpenText, specifically around requirements for the industry. So things like supplier exchange to enable you to share information with your suppliers. Things like intelligent viewing, which you probably know as Brava, to be able to view some of the key sort of engineering and technical content, the ability to view information remotely through mobile devices. And importantly, what we're going to talk about today is the ability to actually sort of unlock some of that data that's in content, capture that, and then use that information to allow us to better navigate asset structures. So that's some of the sort of, I suppose, the core pieces. And then on top of that, what we are then going to start bringing to market are increasingly is our business process solutions that add value to that content platform. Things like the management of technical service requests, management of linear assets, process safety management, mechanical integrity, operational risk management, for example. And over the next sort of 2 or 3 webinars, I'll begin to introduce some of these solutions to you and explain about them. But then importantly, if you just click again, Chris, and again, it's then taking that sort of set of processes with the content that's related to it, and ultimately integrating that into the broader sort of broader ecosystem of key business systems, again, Chris, that make up the total sort of system around intelligent asset management. SAP, obviously, Maximo, maybe a PLM system, GIS, and so on. So it's basically sort of saying, look, content's a key part of this strategy. we clearly own content and can provide you with all the tools that you need to manage your critical content. We can then put that in the context of the business processes that you need to run in your business, and then we can make those and share that information with your other key sort of systems, providing that interoperability that we mentioned on the previous slide. So that's the overall strategy, and the next sort of three or four webinars, we'll be looking at elements of that. So onto what we're going to talk about today. So first we'll welcome Chris Clark. So Chris, Cad-Capture have been a partner of OpenText for many years now. Can you just give me a brief introduction to the company and what Cad-Capture do?
Yeah, we'll do that. Thanks, Martin, and thanks for having me on today. So as you say, Cad-Capture have been working with OpenText for a number of years now, over 16 years. We're based over in the UK, in a town called Blackburn, but we've been in business for over 30 years now, and we've always specialised in the engineering field. And particularly, we started out sort of with large format scanning and CAD conversion, but really over the last 15 to 20 years, we focused more on the software to help people manage, access, and utilise the information, both the documents themselves and the information within those documents and drawings. And what we're talking about today is the ability to use asset navigation with the AIM suite, Asset Information Management Suite. Now, all of this is available from the OpenText SolEx partner network. So effectively, all of the OpenText users will be able to access our software and what we're going to show today through their OpenText account rep and sales executive. And in terms of what we've done in the past and what we're doing now is really, it goes across industry in terms of the asset intensive nature of the organisations we work with. Here you see an example of all the sort of organisations that will be able to utilise the solution that we're going to talk through. And to give some examples here, oil and gas, been working in oil and gas for literally 30 years. We've got a number of clients across the globe who are using this solution. But we also work in other industries such as utilities, power generation, renewables, mining, in particular a recent organisation we've started working with. But anybody who has a need to manage, create or manage assets and the information that's generated around them to both create and maintain those same assets, will hopefully be able to see some value and benefit in what we're talking about today.
Okay, Chris, thanks. So we know that many companies in the energy industry are moving towards, I've mentioned, intelligent asset management and really towards a sort of data-driven world, right? But much of the information they need, much of the data they need, is actually locked inside legacy content. The P&ID, for example, has a whole bunch of sort of data wrapped in it, but it's just there as sort of text on the screen. So can you give me an outline of how, or basically explain some of the challenges that organizations are facing to sort of make this transition from this legacy system to this sort of data-driven world? Yeah,
absolutely. Excuse me. So firstly, some of the general challenges that we see are organizations where, firstly, the quality of the data that is being submitted by the partners and EPCs, it can often be below what they would hope it to be, which can cause project delays and cost overruns. We see engineers searching for documentation that's related to particular assets, so they may need to interrogate multiple systems, which can be very time consuming. And just generally the ability to navigate from one document or drawing to the next, such as walking the line on P&IDs, can be very difficult and subject to errors. And as you say, the information can be locked in, from a native CAD file, an AutoCAD file. The P&ID information can be accessible on the screen, but not from a system point of view. So we can activate that information, but also we see people having the same sort of problems, with even more difficult documents. So you've got sort of electronically generated PDFs, scanned PDFs, you see in the bottom left corner, or even photos. We see people who there's vital information and a value that's in these different documents and drawings, but it's just difficult because it's locked in and it's not accessible. And so, in terms of the challenges this brings, as you say, valuable data locked away in all these different siloed informations and the documents and drawings. Impact efficiency, a lot of time wasted looking for the right document, the right drawing at the right time. And again, particularly with critical documents, time to data is vital. So being able to access that information, readily can be a big boon for companies, and can be a huge safety benefit as well. But very often that's difficult. So again, it can give challenges for safety and compliance, which can be badly impacted by these complex processes. And finally, just the general quality standards can be difficult to maintain, because this information that is vital is difficult to access and leverage effectively. So what we do is we propose and deliver an approach of asset-centric navigation, or asset navigation, which means that we augment and add to the existing sort of system and document-centric approaches that people generally use. But what we focus on is the ability to hang that information off the asset itself. So that means the tag is the central hub of the information, the kernel, if you will. And that means that you can then drill down or navigate to related information, both from a metadata point of view and also from a user interface point of view, which we'll show you later on, which means that you can very quickly and efficiently find the information that you're looking for.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you say is that although and a lot of the companies in the industry are trying to move towards a data-driven world, what they're faced with is a lot of legacy content information that is in many different formats. It's variable levels of quality. I'm also hearing you say that what you have at Cad-Capture are some tools that essentially can unlock that information and start to bring that forward to enable organizations to sort of bring that to work with more in that sort of data centric way. So can you give me more sort of detail on how both Cad-Capture combined with OpenText can combine to sort of address the problem?
By all means, yeah. So I mean, starting off with the OpenText foundation, whether that be Content Suite or Documentum, XECM for SAP, XECM for engineering, asset operations. All of these, the controlled environment that's vital as the base layer of people being able to manage this vital content and documentation. Cad-Capture come to the party by allowing you to firstly extract and then validate that information. And there's various ways that we can do that in terms of master data governance, which we'll touch on in a bit more detail later on. So that can be a good way of validating the information initially and from an integrity point of view. But we can then build a tag database from that information that we've taken from the drawing, and that can give you visibility of the tags per drawing, drawings per tag. But the culmination of this is really combining the access of that database through the user interface screen, the Brava tool that you mentioned earlier, or intelligent viewing. And that means that you can then navigate directly through to that information from the screen itself using hotspots. So just to go into a bit more detail on that. So firstly, the extraction process. This is the unlocking of the value and accessing the information. So for a native CAD file or a PDF, we can scrape off that information and give that visibility that people generally don't have, and particularly for complex tags such as instrumentation, which we'll talk about a bit later. So we take that information, build it into the tag database or a tag library. And what we can then do is say, okay, we can compare that information with the sort of formats that we're expecting. And so we can start identifying quality issues and helping mediate them against them in terms of at the metadata level. So here you can see in the top right corner, the heater unit BUH should have a dash for 100C, but actually, the dash is missing. So we can identify that. We can rectify it at the metadata level. So you're basically correcting information, particularly if you want to compare this with other documents or other systems. That means you can standardize the information and make sure you can get accurate search results for better search and retrieval. All of this information can then be compared and used for master data governance, whether it be the inbound drawing side of things, so when you first get the drawings from your partners, or whether it's the general comparison against master data, in terms of the master system, plant maintenance system, finding out, what is the information in the drawing compared to what is in the SAP or Maximo system. And again, you can identify inaccuracies and variances there, and you can also make those changes. And one thing I should have mentioned earlier, from the errors point of view as well, we can also rectify issues where, even if it's not just an error of the way that the tag is written, it could be the way the tag has been read by the OCR system. So if it's on a PDF, we can also build in rules that will say, okay, we can tolerate the fact that sometimes the OCR will take zeros and O's and S's and fives and W's, V's, U's, and all these things that can be misunderstood to give a false reading. So we can build that in and tolerate that, so you can make sure you get the accurate system, the accurate result, I should say, from the tag that's been read. We can deliver this in multiple output options, from a database and a web UI and a spreadsheet for loading into different systems. But the real value comes when it's put into the context of the OpenText ECM, so Content Management Suite. And that means you can then populate the information directly into the metadata. So just to give you a brief example of how we firstly extract that information, we use pattern recognition, so that it's using regular expressions. So here you'll see we've built a rule to recognize the equipment. There's 1 to 3 letters, then a dash, then 3 numbers. So that's captured V-110, and we've categorized it as a piece of equipment. We've named the tag, we've taken the XY coordinates. So that means you can locate it on the page. We can keep doing this even for more complex, abbreviations, such as here. So instead of there being 100C/D, you get a line item for each of the pieces of equipment. That can be very important, so you can differentiate between the information that's related to each of those particular pieces of equipment. We can also, as I mentioned earlier, take on more complex patterns, because instrumentation very often is on multi-lines. It's easily I've lost the words now. Mistaken for initials or dates, because it can be very simple but on multiple lines. So we can build in additional intelligence and rules to say, okay, only recognize this string where it's 1 to 3 letters with a return and 3 numbers if it's in a sort of a circle or 2 arcs or near to some other part of the drawing. And then there's various different other ways. All of these are configurable in terms of the different types of tag and asset that can be recognized. So you've got additional ones that are commonly used would be lines and continuation tags or off-page tags. And all of these can be captured and built into the database, as you see in the bottom left corner here. And what that means is then initially that information can then be utilized, uploaded and made accessible at the metadata level, so you can search and retrieve for that information within the OpenText content management system.
So, so what I'm hearing you say, so using the AIM suite, not only are you able to extract, information from all this sort of legacy information, but you actually provide a sort of quality control aspect to it. So you're able to, ensure and add to the quality to make sure that the information is correct. It also sounds like there's an element of machine learning here as well. That system will actually get more intelligent over time as you start to correct some of the errors it makes, and it has a sort of better understanding. So the longer this gets used, the more effective it gets. So, I mean, really interesting. Obviously, putting the stuff back into the OpenText repository really adds value from an engineering perspective, because I can then just go on and say, hey, find me all the content I need that's relevant to V110, and bring back all that information, which could take me many hours to find in a normal environment. So, so clearly, it's got significant value for the engineers simply as an extract and sort of search tool. But we're talking really about navigation here. So how does Cad-Capture help engineers then add sort of further value to that information?
Okay. So again, going back to the validation of the information to begin with. So here you've got the information that effectively makes up the tag database. And you can compare that with the other information in the master data, so you can highlight errors upstream. So when documents and drawings first come into the organization, you can push back to the partner and say, actually, there's information that's incorrect, there's missing here, and they can be identified and rectified before the drawing gets on the critical path of being project critical. So that means that you can save time and save project delays and cost that generally is created if these problems aren't realized until the drawing's actually in use as part of the project. Again, other ways that we can really add to the ability to, for the navigation side of things is the use of hotspots. So this gives you rapid document retrieval, which we'll show you shortly if we get a chance, but also, multi-system access. So you can go from the drawing and then you can say, okay, I'm trying to find related information, so I want to go straight to that information rather than, the system-centric point of view of saying, okay, I need to go and look in Maximo for this, I need to go and look in Hexagon for that, or SAP, wherever it might be. And here you can see on the screen the idea of the business workspace, part of the XECM framework. And again, we can utilize that directly as well, particularly for things like SAP and Maximo. So really, it's very intuitive, and it works how engineers think. They're thinking about the asset, thinking about the task that's involved that they've been deployed to undertake, and it allows them to focus on that rather than trying to remember and work out how they access the various systems that they need to use in order to carry that task out. And one of the key things, right at the beginning, you said about the legacy drawings. A lot of the organizations we work with, have been around for decades, oil refining organizations, mines, power generation sites. And so they have very old documentation and drawings very often. And what we're now able to do as well, even when the information isn't readily accessible off the drawing, we can now, with the AIM suite, we can add the tags themselves. So you can basically add on or draw those hotspots on, and thus activating the old documentation and taking it with you on your digital journey, rather than having to leave that as a sort of separate, sort of dumbed down document in comparison to the more recent and more native and cleaner documents and images. And back to the comment you made about learning as it goes. Absolutely. So when you're looking at the master list, and as soon as you've accepted a tag, it's been recognized and matched against one of the patterns that is approved, then every time that is seen in the future, it can automatically get accepted. So it does literally learn as it goes along. You build up the information that's recognized, and if you have a master list to begin with, then we help validate that, and once it's been validated, then it's a self-perpetuating process, which means that you can keep on top of that information. So it's different from what people traditionally have often done, which is scrape the data. That's a point in time, that's a picture of what the information on the drawings looked like when that was carried out. Whereas ours continues to grow and continues to be current. So you always know what is in the latest version of the drawing, rather than something that was scraped 3 versions ago, because very often that information just degrades over time until you get to the stage where the organization has to go through the scraping process again to find out what's in the latest drawings as compared to what was in it 6 months or 6 years ago, depending on how long ago that activity was carried out.
So what I'm seeing here is obviously with the ability through hotspots. I think one of the challenges that we see for engineers, and we did a survey recently with Accenture and looking at operations within oil and gas, the oil and gas industry, and on average, a field operative had 28 different systems they needed to navigate through on a daily basis to find information about a piece of equipment that they were going to work on. And so what I'm seeing here is, and a lot of these guys live in this sort of P&ID. This is their key sort of document. So what I'm seeing through hotspots is the ability to go into this document they understand and navigate directly from there out to the key pieces of data, rather than having to constantly change systems and go through different search sort of tools and different quality of data. So I can see a tremendous sort of productivity benefit from that. And it comes back to my intelligent asset management, interoperability comments I made earlier on. I think that's what a lot of companies are trying to drive towards. I think, Chris, we've probably got a bit of time, just a few minutes for you to. This is going to obviously, it helps if we can see what this looks like. So I know that you've sort of teed up a quick sort of demo of the system to give everyone a quick view. So if you want to take a look at that.
Yep, I shall do that now. The intelligent aspect of it is right on the money. Because really what we can do is we can take the drawings and we can activate them and allow people to interact with them in a far more proactive way. So here we've got the OpenText Extended ECM Smart UI user interface. So what I'll do is I'll open up a drawing, and this opens up in the Brava multi-format viewing solution. And what you can see on the left-hand side, let's see if I can do this, there we go. On the left-hand side, you see the menu bar for the hotspots solution. Okay, so this adds a number of different features, which I'll talk you through now. hotspots list, hotspots history, search results, load all hotspots, and load and show. So I'll start off by just saying, okay, let's show me what information has been activated. So all the different colors you can see on screen now are the different types of hotspots or assets that have been activated and turned into hotspots. Blue representing equipment, pink instrumentation, green lines, and yellow are continuation or off-page tags. So now going to the top of the list, here you've got a list of all of the tags that are on this. So if it's a very complex P&ID, then very often engineers need to navigate around just the one document itself and need to be able to find out particular information. So we've got a list of all the 93 tags that are on this drawing listed here, and you can just you can click on each one and it'll zoom into each one. And even if there's multiple instances, so you've got the heater again that we mentioned before, 2 instances of that. And that means that you can very readily find information on the drawing or document. You can also type things in and get an automatic filter. And again, so there's a pump here, and I wanted to find there's 2 instances of this pump, and I can see them both on the drawing. Then moving down on the left, you've got the hotspots history. So this is gives a breadcrumb trail of all of the documents and hotspots that you visited during a session, and that in itself can be useful. So if you get to end of shift, or even just going for lunch, you can have that breadcrumb trail. You can save it, and so you can start off start where you left off when you come back to the task. But you can also go back and open up either yours or other people's saved hotspots histories. So if I was looking about this pump and if I've just been given a task and say, okay, show me some information around this pump, show me the last set of documents somebody needed to use when they last overhauled this pump. So I can click on one of the work packs and it'll give me, I should click a better one than that, it'll give me an overview of all of the documents that were used the last time this was maintained. And that can be very useful in terms of it's basically giving you a list of all of the documents that you're likely to need carrying out this task this time. You can also zip and download that. So the Brava viewer is a multi-platform. So if you've got mobile devices and there is Wi-Fi network available, then you can utilize those. But sometimes going out on plant is difficult in terms of connectivity. So you can simply zip and download that information. So all this list, the work pack, will automatically get downloaded, and you can take that with you on site, on your smart device, whatever it might be. But going back to the drawing itself and the access to multiple systems, as you mentioned, this is really where the system comes into its own. So we're looking at the pump. We want to find out more information about it. So you can right-click, and this right-click menu is configurable. So you can have different right-click menus depending on the type of asset, and you can add to them over time. So you can just start and say, okay, show me all the documents that are related to that pump. And straight away, you've got a list of all the different documents that are within, in this case, the content suite system. You've got the data sheet for the pump itself, you've got the data sheet for the motor, and some other related drawings. That in itself can save a lot of time, just being able to find that information directly without having to go through another search screen. You can also do things like give people access to important information. So if you're looking at a pre-startup safety review, you can give them access to some information that's important that they interpret before they actually carry out a task. So here again, this is another piece of information collateral that will be held within the repository, and give them direct access to that, regardless of the device they're using. And then, as you mentioned before, the access to multiple systems. So here, the business workspace or the XECM framework. So you can click on this. We're looking at Pump 3000, and you can go straight into the business workspace. And this will give you access to all of the related information that's held within the SAP system. You could have started here and navigated to the drawing, but in this instance, you can see the information on the pump in the middle. You can see the related information here, and you can also go and see, what other documents and drawings are related to that as well. So again, that can be very, very powerful in terms of being able to interrogate multiple systems in a fast, efficient manner, without having to, remember each of those systems in detail and work out where you need to go next. And the final part I would show very quickly would be the continuation tags. And again, just being able to navigate around the system itself very quickly. So if you were following a line, walking the line, and if you can see in the top of the screen here, we're on drawing 46D. And here you can see this line saying carried on drawing 46E. So you can simply click on that, and it automatically goes back into the system, does the search, and opens up the drawing that you need to. So now we're on drawing 46E, and if I zoom down to the corner here, it'll highlight all of the different entry points. So it tells me I've come from drawing 46B, and these are the various lines that I could have come from. And again, equally, I can go back and just navigate either to one of these subsequent drawings if I wanted to traverse multiple drawings, or I can click back and go straight back to the drawing I started off with. So that's a very quick overview of what the hotspots can do, which is really building on the fact that we've unlocked the value, validated this information, created the database, and then you can use it in an automatic and dynamic way to activate all of the information as I've shown today. And as mentioned before, this works with native CAD files and in PDFs as well. So again, all the same functionality that you'd have seen before is available on PDFs as well.
Chris, thank you. Yeah, I each time I see this, I get more excited about. I think when we looked at this webinar series, one of the reasons that the order that we put the webinars in was quite important. And for me, this is foundational. So to build out an effective intelligent asset management strategy, you need to have the data under control. You need to find it and be able to navigate through it. And as we said at the beginning, a lot of this information is still in old legacy format. So for me, this is a sort of foundational piece of taking the sort of power of the content system, extracting all that information, and then allowing that to be navigated out is huge productivity benefits for the organization. And as you said, in embracing things like safety as well. So thank you for that. Really, really interesting and instructional. I think just before before we close, I've no doubt that people are looking at this, and I think I've had this conversation with organizations where they're saying, this looks fantastic, but the size of the problem we've got is, I'm trying to get my hands around it. How do I justify it to my organization? How do I quantify what I'm getting into if we start to go down this road? And so what I want to do at this point is just hand over quickly to Jerry Roy from our Business Value Consulting Group. And Jerry's going to outline an offer that OpenText are going to make to you to help you, I think, understand how to go through the next steps. So over to you, Jerry.
Thanks, Martin. Next slide, please. As Martin mentioned, I am a lead value engineer on the OpenText BVC, or Business Value Consulting team. I've been doing value engineering for over 10 years, and I've been with OpenText for about 2 years, and I focus on the energy and the oil and gas sectors. The BVC team works with companies and all around value. So we work with companies like yourself to identify what is the value of, or the definition of value for a company, and how do you obtain that value? And how do you measure that value? Depending on where you are along the content management journey, we have a methodology that uses surveys, discovery workshops, industry expertise, OpenText experiences, and other components as part of a collaborative approach to ensure value is understood and obtainable. As an example, based on the topic today, so how do you currently handle your projects today? Or how do you handle your engineering drawings throughout your organization and partners? What's the current cost of managing those drawings? How do you find those drawings or correct errors? What are the hurdles and challenges you are facing today? So the first step is to identify what the as-is situation or the as-is environment is today. So where do you need to be? And why do you need to be there? What is your desired future state? And what does that mean to your business? How do you get there? So what will be the architecture or the roadmap to that value? What is the path forward? And ultimately, what is the investment going to be? What is the financial benefits needed to ensure you're getting the most out of your money and your resources? What is the TCO or the ROI? What is the justification for this particular initiative or any initiative? Next slide, please. So working with you, we utilize this methodology for discovery, documenting, and articulating the value metrics along the journey. We have several artifacts that capture this from concept to reality. And depending on where you are today, will depend on which components are needed within your company. Next slide. Because there's a cost to doing anything in your business, there's a need to understand what that cost is and the benefits to that business, to your business. So as part of nearly every project, you really need to understand those benefits. Are they inefficiency gains or better asset utilization, reducing risk or avoiding risk, ultimately impacting the bottom line of your business? So our team can work with you to help deliver that business case, along with the steps to support the business case and initiatives. So our call to action today, one more click, Chris, is to work with your account team, your OpenText account team, and provide us some drawings. Working with the Cad-Capture team, we'll conduct a pilot. We'll do the data extraction on your drawings and create hotspots on those drawings. Part of that pilot will also be create a high-level view into where the value or the benefits are expected and how do you get to those benefits across the business. And again, this is a part of the BVC team is what we do is a no charge offering, because if you're successful, it makes OpenText successful. And so I encourage you to reach out to your OpenText account executive and get this started as soon as you can. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Martin.
Thanks, Jerry. I suppose just to summarize today, obviously, you know, I started off talking about OpenText and what we are trying to bring to market, I think, to support you as a customer taking this journey into, you know, more of a data-driven world and into this sort of intelligent asset management sort of strategy you have. And I think the first part of that to me was how, you know, was looking at the AIM suite and how it can add real value to your existing sort of information and surface that up, start to enable you to use that as data. So hopefully it was really interesting for a lot of you. I think I've rarely been in a customer environment where people haven't got really excited by it and I think can quickly see the value. And I think what Jerry's talking about there at the end is a great opportunity for you at really sort of zero risk to take a look at how this would work for you. So hopefully that was all, you've understood all that. What I'd just like to do before I wrap would be, I don't know, Chris, if you could just shoot back to the first slide. I should have put this at the end originally, but if you don't mind. Thank you. Back to, is it the one before that? Just before that one, that's it, yeah. So just to say, as I said at the beginning, this is part of a four sort of webinar series. We've obviously covered asset navigation today. In 2 weeks' time, on July 27th, we'll be looking at a solution that we have built, which is really all around managing technical service requests, right from initiation through sort of work order management, managing the whole sort of workflow process, people part of that process as well. It's something that we've implemented at customers, integrated into our content suite platform. So I think, again, really interesting as part of this whole initiative around sort of providing business processes. The week after that, or 2 weeks after that, we'll be looking at an operational risk management and the strategy we have around starting to bring things like process safety management and mechanical integrity solutions to market. And then finally, towards the end of August, we'll sort of wrap all that into the overall OpenText strategy around our content cloud for energy and how to bring remote sort of mobile working in. Okay, so thank you all for thanks Chris today for walking through the AIM suite. Thank you, Jerry, for walking us through the BVC offer at the end, and thank you everyone for attending and listening, and hopefully I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks, Martin.